What are we running here? A cadet ship number 1? Are we ready or not?
All decks are ready, sir.
Engage.
Hey folks, welcome to episode 2 of Cadets with your hosts Matt and Mike. How are you doing today, Mike?
Oh, fan-dabby dozy. On top of the world. Feel great.
Is that because
Amazing.
you just watched this episode?
Yeah.
Good? You enjoyed it then?
You know what? I loved it.
Good.
I thought it was a lot better than the pilot episode by far. Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much that I actually started watching the next episode, which then I had to stop myself because I was like, okay, hold, don't distract yourself. Like hold on a little bit. I'll wait till next week and then I can watch it. Then I can make it feel like it's an actual TV show, which is being aired like one at a time as well. Sure, I kind of like that. Give me a little bit of time, like a little bit of break in between each episode to be able to.
It's too easy to just
go
go
and
and binge shows nowadays, watching them on Netflix or whatever.
I want to get, like I was saying in the last recording, I want to get that feel like that the people must have got when they were first watching this show, when they were first watching Star Trek.
Yeah, I like the idea of doing that.
Although I found out that the pilot episode was released years before the initial one.
Really? Okay. Well, that may explain a few things about why the crew is so different then.
Yeah, and they changed. Yeah, and they changed everything up. Yeah, because if you're watching it now and you watch it, 2021, which we're in now.
Yeah.
You just roll with it, wouldn't you? And you'd just be like, oh, okay, yeah, it's all changed. Like, it's a brand new crew and stuff, which we were discussing as well, weren't we? We were saying like, oh, I wonder how they're gonna do that.
Yeah. And they sort of didn't. there was no swap over.
There was no swap over. There was no transition at all.
Yeah.
But it's one of those. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it?
I did. I liked the pilot more in some ways, and I liked this more in some ways. So I don't think I would be in line with you in saying that I preferred this to the pilot. I think maybe, if anything, I actually preferred the pilot. But there are definitely things about this that I enjoyed more. But that definitely feels like a good place to start, talking about the fact that all the crew is different. One thing we didn't do for quite a while in the first episode was just set up the premise, which I should probably do near the start of these episodes. So we'll begin with that.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, so this time we're not following Captain Pike, we're following Captain Kirk. There is no mention of Captain Pike anywhere in the episode. It feels very dissociated from that first pilot that we had. I think the only carryover character is Spock. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Spock's the only character which we see in both the pilot and in this episode, The Man Trap, which is the title. The
Man Trap, yes. This I should have probably said that earlier as well. Yeah.
Oh, what great! what a great name. I don't know if it's silly or great. I don't know. The Man Trap.
The thing is, you could actually argue that the first episode could also be called The Man Trap.
I know, yeah, that's what I was like.
There seems to be a recurring thing so far.
Yeah, they're just carrying on. Like, it's going to be the same each week.
But even Spock, the only character who is consistent over these two episodes, even he is very different in this, I would say. It's the first time he starts feeling like the Spock that I think people are familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's a bit more grounded in his actual character of his race. He's a Vulcan.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the interactions with Spock and any of the other characters
me too.
in this episode. It was really good. Again, I don't want to get distracted because, like I say, I started watching the next episode and I don't want to even be thinking about that one. I want to be thinking about the Man Trap, so I want to stay focused on that. So if I do at any point start diverting onto bits that weren't in this episode,
I'll pull you right back because I don't want you giving me spoilers for the next episode. I haven't seen any of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool.
So the plot of this episode is that the crew have gone to a planet where two human architects are stationed and have been there for a few years. And it is, I guess, procedure in their organization to go and do a routine medical check every year on anyone stationed away on an alien world. They arrive, they're not particularly welcome. And it also then is revealed that one of these two people is not actually the human that they think they are. That human is dead as of a couple of years ago. And this is, I was going to say a shape-shifting alien. That actually may not be true, but that's something we'll get into. It's an alien that can appear as different people to different people.
Two different people, yeah.
And these two archaeologists really need salt. They've almost run out of salt supplements, and they're on a very hot, arid planet where they need salt to survive. So our villainous shape-shifting character is draining the salt from the crew, and they're going around killing, which is another big difference from the first episode. And they need to be found and stopped, and that is the kind of premise of this episode 2. As you mentioned in last episode, no one died in the cage.
In the first episode, in the pilot, nobody died. Yeah,
but that is very different in this one.
Yeah, there are a load of people that get casualties. There's loads of casualties in the man trap.
3, 4, 5, somewhere around there. Okay, a fair few people do die.
I think about four people get drained of salt.
So they're certainly not shy about killing some people off. There's a couple crew members. One of the archaeologists from the planet dies. And Kirk himself very almost dies, so very dramatic.
Yeah, it is. You know what? I all the way through. Well, before I watched the episode and I read the synopsis on Netflix and I read like what it was about, I was like, okay, let's literally take this with a pinch of salt. This episode, because how interesting can this possibly be about salt? I was just like, what on earth are they going to be talking? What on earth is going to happen? And you know what? They do that thing that they did in the pilot, where they just jump straight in. Again, they just jump straight in, and they want you to accept everything that's going on. There was a few introduction like bits in it which helped you understand who these other people were now.
Yeah, the way they opened was different, and it felt like they had a different priority.
Did you notice the classic Star Trek spiel?
Yes, this time we actually had the captain setting up what they were doing and where they were going. Yeah, which we just found out via kind of incidental dialogue in the first episode.
Yeah.
I love those opening titles; they're so good. One thing I'm not sure of actually is that like yellow font with the credits coming up at the start. All looks really high definition and nice and crisp. And I'm trying to work out if they redid the title for Netflix.
No, they remastered it.
Right.
Remastered, aired on the 29th of September 2007.
Okay.
Which I thought, I noticed as I was watching it, I was just like, wow, this seems really sharp. Like, some of the shots in this are really good. Like, really, really good. And I was like, for the time, this is amazing. And then I read that and I was like, right, okay, now it makes sense. I'm you know what? I'm glad that they did remaster it, to be fair, because they kind of have to, don't they? Otherwise, I don't think audiences now would be able to cope with what they're watching. You know, piece of string on a spaceship.
Well, that's
going
the downside,
past the camera
right?
screen.
I don't know if you noticed in the first episode. I don't know if I saw it in this one, but even the filmed gate, you can see the dirt on the camera lens in the first episode, and it's weird because it almost gives it this depth where it looks like you're looking at the thing through 3D glasses, because it feels like you've got this like kind of dirty lens up close to you, and then all the film is happening further away, which is really bizarre.
You know what? There was one or two moments in this episode where the camera was fuzzy. It was almost like the internet was going out when I was watching
Interesting. Okay.
On one or two clips. And it was a bit of dialogue between the character Bones, the doctor, and Kirk. And when the camera was on Kirk, it was like sharp and it was okay, but then when it went to Bones, it was kind of like fuzzy. Like it wasn't quite synced up or something. I don't know why. I don't know what that was.
I might have an answer for this, possibly. Because one thing that I'm aware of is that in the earlier Star Treks, and you notice this slightly with, what was her name? Crater. If you notice, sometimes when the camera's on her, it's kind of intentionally almost like bloomed out slightly. It looks like, and one thing that I've heard about before about the original Star Trek is often when the camera is on a female cast member, is they intentionally make the picture a little fuzzier to try and hide, just like imperfection, like facial imperfections and stuff like that. It's almost like a flattering type.
Oh yeah.
Which is bizarre.
to make it look more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
to the audience's eye.
And it's a weird thing to think about that would ever be a thing that was done. And I'm not sure if that was the case in that particular shot, where perhaps his makeup just wasn't the most flattering on Bones, so they just intentionally fuzzed it. But I know that they genuinely did do that on some cast members during the episode sometimes.
Again, it's like it's a thing of the times, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a technique of the times to please the audience, as it were. I don't know. I don't know if that was the reason or not, but yeah, it was just certain moments through it. I was just like, oh, that's a bit grainy, that's a bit fuzzy, and then at other moments, anytime it was like with the Enterprise going past the planet, or anytime it was like a cut scene from one scene to the next, and they were using that shot. I thought, wow, that's really sharp. Or I was like, wow, I love the angle. There was one shot, and I've actually written it down here that I loved, and it was the Enterprise is orbiting a planet. And as it's orbiting the planet, the camera pans underneath the Enterprise as it passes over.
Okay.
And it's just such a nice shot because it just gives this scale to the ship. It gives this this is a massive, massive ship that they're traveling on. And I thought that was such a beautiful way of doing it. It was just such a beautiful shot as it comes over. And it just passes by.
That's cool.
And you just get this really big image. Oh, for me anyway, it was good enough that I wrote it down. So well done.
Whoever was responsible for that.
Yeah, whose ever choice that was. That was really, really good. I really enjoyed that. This episode, once everybody's on the planet, they go down. There's actually a relationship already made between the characters, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think this is
and
the differences from the first episode are really evident right off the bat, because this is like almost all they talk about for the first 2-3 minutes of this opening. It's just Bones and Kirk discussing that he has this previous relationship with one of these two architects, whereas the opening dialogue in episode 1 is all really functional. Like, they're all just talking about what's going on and what they need to go and do down on this planet. And I think that does establish a big difference between the two episodes, in that this one seems to care less about the dilemma and the technical things behind what's going on. And it continues to be very evident later as well, I think. And this one cares much more about like the relationships between characters.
The characters, yeah. I thought that as well. Like, it was there was much less science involved. Sure. Do you know what I mean? There was much less jargon being used and scientific terminology being used compared to the pilot episode, and that's definitely got to be a directional point, hasn't it? So we as the audience can connect with these characters on the screen, much more than just maybe scientists or something like that would be watching it thinking, oh yeah, well that's understandable for this and that's understandable for that.
Right.
But I liked the dialogue between the characters in this opening. I liked that introduction, and like that, it was like the jokey little smiles on Kirk's face, and it is like the way that he was talking to Bones and stuff like that. You can see their relationship already, and I thought that was really, really good. I thought that was really impactful. As an audience member, I enjoyed watching their relationship. I already felt that they had the relationship, and I already felt that everything that they were doing, because it was like a routine mission, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was routine. I think Kirk even says it every year, and like you mentioned,
they mentioned
every
that.
year they go down.
Yeah.
So it was just like almost playful. There was no danger here. There was nothing to worry about. They could just have a laugh.
This wasn't meant to go wrong.
Yeah, and then it goes very wrong very, very quickly, doesn't it?
And even though, as I mentioned, this is very different than the first episode in the way it establishes itself. I'm not saying I think that there's anything bad about it. It just definitely has different priorities. And yes, like you, I really enjoyed a lot of the dialogue between the characters. But characters do, in some ways, act differently towards towards each other in this episode. Like, I don't think there were any arguments between crew members in episode 1. There were some heated discussions, but I think they were all between Pike and... Is his name Pike? Sounds wrong. It is Pike, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pike and the aliens,
Pike.
I think, were the only heated discussions in episode 1. It wasn't really him and the rest of the crew. Whereas in this one, Kirk and Bones argue a couple times.
Oh yeah, Kirk puts him in his place.
Yeah.
Kirk puts him in his place a few times, doesn't he?
So yeah, kind of is doing different things with the kind of character relationships. But it is really, really nice, and it's one of the... I said there were things I preferred about each of the episodes, and it is one of the things I preferred about this. I really liked character interactions here.
Yeah, same here, yeah. Even amongst all the character interactions that were going on, something that they did keep from the first pilot episode, and something that I think is going to be a continuous theme in this series is the female roles, is the female characters, which I'm sure will become a big part of our discussions through this.
I've got that written down, yeah.
Oh man, let me have a look here. What did I write down? 4 minutes in.
The music.
4 minutes in.
The music. You get the almost like striptease type like brass like instruments coming in the soundtrack. It's ridiculous.
You definitely know that the lady has appeared on screen or is about to appear on the screen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a very interesting choice from the creators of the show.
Yeah.
Every time a lady appears on the screen, that this music has to come on, or if there's going to be some sort of flirty interaction, so some sort of some sort of sexual interaction, conversation, whatever.
Yeah.
But it still has that damsel in distress feel to it a little bit.
Yes.
And
this episode,
yeah,
almost feels like it's taken a step backwards as well, because I mentioned in episode 1 that even though it wasn't completely aware of it, the writing felt semi-aware of the sexism that was going on and sort of addressed it, but not completely. There was still some that was pure just like writing ignorance. Whereas this episode never addresses sexism at all. There are some sexist things going on, and it's not part of the story. That is just ignorance of the time.
Although saying that, one moment for it where I was laughing, but also going like, you know what? I really enjoyed that interaction between Spock and Lieutenant Uhura. Yeah. Because she's coming across quite flirty. Yeah. She clearly has interest in Spock. Do you know what I mean? Like, she clearly has an interest in Spock, but he had nothing to give back because he's a Vulcan or half Vulcan. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have anything to give back to her because he just doesn't. It's not logical to him, is it? He can't process it. He can't understand it.
Yeah, that was a great conversation.
Oh, it was just brilliant. It was just like shut her right down, and it was just like it gave the audience that moment of being like, even though there are these connotations involved, and even though there are these themes involved where it's flirty and etc. I really like that shutdown that he just you could see on his facial expressions and everything. He was just like, I don't quite understand what she's trying to do here. Oh well.
Yeah, why would I say that?
Tell me how your planet Vulcan looks on a lazy evening when the moon is full.
Vulcan has no moon, Miss Uhura.
Although I actually, that scene, and this is one of the things I was going to bring up about the sexism in this episode, is I don't think that I could find anywhere in the episode that any of the dialogue I would consider sexist. It was sort of everything else. Because there's nothing, I wouldn't say there's anything inherently sexist with just a female crew member just being flirty with someone. People do flirt. That's just
no, not at all.
And I don't think any of the other dialogue was necessarily either. It was like all the stuff that was sexist was stuff besides the writing. Like the uniforms are scandalous in this episode.
Oh, ridiculous.
In episode 1, they're all wearing trousers, which seems functional and like you'd expect.
Practical.
And then, and exactly, practical. And in this episode, they become impractical in their own world, because there's a point where they find a dead body on the ship, and there's two of them. Is he called Sulu?
Sulu, yeah.
And there's a female crew member as well. I don't know if I remember her name. I think she's his yeoman. And they find a dead body.
She brings him the food. She brings him
she
brings him some fruit and stuff, doesn't she? In the whole it was a science lab, isn't it?
Yeah, almost like plants. A little botany lab. There's lots of plants going on.
A botany lab, yeah.
But they find a body anyway, and the first thing Sulu does is run to the wall, and use the communicator to say, "We need a medical team up here." Meanwhile, the female crew member stands looking at the body with like this expression on her face, like shock, but then just doesn't move for like a good 10 seconds. And Sulu then runs over to see if he can like help. And I'm thinking like the first thing you do in that situation after getting over the immediate shock is go to the body and, you know, see if there's anything you can do, see if they're alive or whatever. And I literally think she just couldn't actually go and kneel by the body, otherwise she would have flashed the camera. And she had to just, had to just stand there and stare and couldn't do anything else because the uniform is so impractical. So yeah, that was pretty wild.
It's an interesting choice, but it's clearly there for a certain target audience, isn't it? It's definitely there for a certain target audience to have. I hate to say it, but to have something good to look at on the screen.
Yeah.
To have something else to enjoy about the show.
I guess so.
You know, you're watching this show, you know you're going to see ladies in slightly...
You could even call the outfit flirtatious in a way, like, which is clearly not the intent. Like, the outfit should be practical, like it's a crew member of a ship. And the practicality of the outfit is the last thing on their mind, it seems like.
Just going back slightly to the stuff in the episode of bodies being on the planet, first death and stuff like that as well, because the whole premise is, you know, they're there for a medical checkup basically to make sure that these people are okay on the planet. The archaeologists are okay because that's, you know, part of the Federation's mandate.
Yeah.
You asked me a question about the style of acting.
Yeah, I mentioned to you that
show.
I was going to bring this up because you were talking about finding some of the theatrical performances a little painful in episode 1. And I was going to ask you what you thought of them in this episode and what it was you liked and disliked about them in both of these.
I found the acting in this episode to be a lot more bearable, but still have a very theatrical, classical portrayal of of things that they were doing, you know, like for example when Nancy is outside, right, and she goes out of the cave, she goes looking for her husband appears, we assume that they've ran into each other already and she's told him to go into the cave to go get this medical check and stuff, and then you hear this scream from outside. You hear this scream and it's it reminded me of a Hitchcock film or something like that. It was just like, you know, like it's like you know, this big scream that she lets out, you know, clearly in distress, lady in distress sort of thing, and they go running out to find her, and she's just stood over the body, like still screaming in shot when they're coming in.
Yeah, it does feel like a stage play sometimes. How about that fight at the end as well? Wow.
I loved. There was like 2 fights in this show which I absolutely loved. There's the one when Spock and Kirk go back on the planet to try and get the archaeologist, and he's shooting at them.
Yeah.
And did you notice that little run that Kirk did? And it was like a little serpentine run that he does.
I don't remember that. I remember him shuffling along the ground in like commando pose. That was funny.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was like his feet moved far too quickly for what he was trying to do. It was so impractical the way that he was moving. Don't know why he was moving serpentine. He was behind cover. I think he was absolutely fine. I don't think he could be seen. But it was just this brilliant little skitter and scatter as he was like running around. And then slid, army crawl, a little bit more of an army crawl. Oh, it was brilliant. There's some really silly... silly like theatrical points. And again, as I was watching it, I was just like, this could be on this could be on the stage easily.
Yeah, for sure.
You could easily do this on the stage. It could be a stage show.
You could probably have replicated the actual planet set on a stage. It's so primitive.
Yeah.
It just looks like someone's taken some polystyrene and literally just sprayed it grey, and there your rocks. It was mad.
Bro, I think that's exactly what it is. I think that's exactly what we're looking at. And I love it. I love this. I love the sets.
Yeah,
I love everything about them. Like, you know, they're brilliant. And although they do look so low budget, it works.
It's just part of the charm, isn't it?
Yeah, so is. It is. It's part of the charm. It's part of the charm of the show and the time period and everything like that. And you know, it's so good. I must say I really, really did enjoy those little bits. Fight scene though, the one at the end, And I know we are jumping hither and thither around this episode, but that's all part of the fun of Cadets. You never know which way we're gonna go. Yeah, get used to that. Get used to that, audiences. Yeah, that fight scene at the end was remarkable.
The double-fisted punching from Spock.
Mr. Spock
And then the pimp slap from Crater. Oh my lord.
Smacking her about like it was just. I know she was right now. Get this right, audience. She's an alien. She's not who she appears. She is draining the salt from crew members. Or he. I don't even know if it's a he or a she. It's an alien.
It, I guess.
Yeah. And this thing is ugly. Man, it is freaky looking. When you first see the alien, because I was thinking that all the way through, I was like, I really hope we see it. I really, really hope we actually see this creature. And when we do...
When your wish was granted, did you regret that decision?
Oh, you know what? I literally went... I let out like a cry. Like a, oh my God, like Jesus Christ. Like, look at this thing. Like, it's disgusting. It is really quite horrific. Like, if that came at you, it is quite scary. And you know what else I noticed in it? There's been 4 deaths in this episode.
It's somewhere around there, yeah.
But it was at the moment when we see the creature, and the creature's hands have these suction cups,
yes,
almost like an octopus, and that's how it drains the salt from its victims.
I guess so, yeah.
But when the hands go onto Kirk's face, he lets out this horrible scream, this agonizing scream.
Yeah.
And that freaked me out, bro. Like, that freaked me out. Because then I thought, like, all these other people have had the same reaction, this must be, like, really intensely painful. This must be, like, number 10 on the pain threshold.
For sure, yeah.
This is up there,
yeah.
You know, like getting a salt drained from you. It's a very specific thing to get drained out of your body, but...
And he doesn't recover quickly from that afterwards as well. Like, that happens, and as soon as she's stopped from draining the salt from him, he just on the desk, just head down, hand on his face. Like, he doesn't join in the fight after that. So, yeah. No,
fantastic acting again, but, you know... I love all those, like, dramatic falls that they do in this show, and I love all the, you know... over-exaggeration of things that happen to them, and they get hit or smacked or pushed back or something like that, or they do a dramatic roll or whatever it is, you know. Even again, that scattery serpentine run that he did, absolutely unnecessary, no point in it at all, but I loved how he did it. Fight scenes in this show, I think, are gonna be very over-dramatic all the way through, from what I've seen so far.
I mean, everyone's seen that fight with Kirk doing the double-fisted punches against that mini Godzilla, whatever that is. I've no idea what the context of that clip is, but who on the internet has not seen that fight? And that seems like a classic example. I didn't realise that would not be the only instance of double-fisted punching, but here we are, episode 2, Spock's straight in there with the double fist punches.
Maybe that's a technique. I don't know. I've never ever seen. You never see a boxing match or UFC or anything like that. Anybody using both hands together, clutched together, almost like they're holding a weapon, a sword or something, and swinging it like a club backwards and forwards,
what possessed them to do that, whether that is required for them to get the shot better. Maybe it helps you make it look like you've connected with them more than a single fist. I don't know.
I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. It's really bizarre, isn't it? It's weird. Really, really odd style of fighting that I've never seen before. I've never even. Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Maybe it's some form of space martial arts. We'll find out at some point.
It must be.
So there's a few other things I wanted to chat about. First of all, since we've already kind of touched on it with the set design, I'll bring this up. But some of the props in this episode, holy cow. The earpieces are amazing.
The little things in the ears, yeah.
Little. I don't know about little.
Nah, I say little,
things.
yeah. It's as big as his head, isn't it? It's massive.
I don't know how they're staying in their ears.
What was the purpose of that?
Just communicators, I guess. Almost like a Bluetooth headset. But
it is, isn't it? Yeah, it's like a Bluetooth headset that they had.
What else did we have that was good? There was a bit where you see a control panel on the wall, and the buttons just look like someone has just glued Haribo to the wall. And I actually wonder if they even had a deal with the confectioners, because then the sleeping pills later on also are that's literally just a jar of red jelly beans very clearly.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. I did notice that there was certain attention to detail to other parts of the ship though, which I thought were brilliant. Obviously, it's very, very colourful, isn't it? The Enterprise at this point. It's not like the sort of sleek silver look that we get of ships in modern times, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it's bright colours, yellows and blues and reds everywhere, all around the ship. You know, every door seems to have a different colour scheme around it as well. But it was the transporter room, which I noticed just little attention to detail. You know, on the wall next to the operator was the window, actually.
Oh, cool.
Looking out, because it was like you could just see the stars outside.
Nice.
And I don't know why. I just really like that. I was just like, so they've really had a little think about all the little bits that you're going to see. And although some things do look a bit quirky to us now, you know, at the time it all does look like bright flashing lights, all exciting space stuff. You know, this is the future. This is what the future is going to look like. And but it was just that little attention to detail that, you know, it's by the window and you can sort of see outside and stuff. I don't know. I really enjoyed that.
I think my number one prop from this episode was the plant as well, which could not be more obviously just someone's hand. It's great.
It's someone's hand. It's a glove.
I love the sound it makes. But yeah, oh my god.
At first you there was no indication that it was a glove. I know it's going to be a puppet. I know. Obviously we know that. We know it's going to be a puppet. But there was no indication. I was like, that's really cool. I really like what they're doing there. And then 2 or 3 shots later, from a different angle, you can see that it's a glove. You can see that it's a hand.
And then it starts shrieking, and it's just someone opening their hand, open and close, just wearing pink marigolds. I loved the sound it made, but wow. No attempt to conceal the fact that is just an arm. That was brilliant.
Brilliant. Loved it. I loved it so much. It was so good. I think they should make a spin-off of the show just of that creature. Just so I can see more puppeteering, because I thought it was amazing. Something that I noticed as well with this one, touching on like the scenery, the set, and the choices for like the characters to exit and entrances and exits for characters. Like even right at the beginning when Kirk and Bones are talking, the archaeologist just slinks away. Just disappeared. Just literally just walks off. He just walks off, but he walks behind a piece of set, and that's him gone. And they go, like, he's run, he's gone, you know. But he hadn't. He just sort of slinked off, and he's just gone behind the set, gone behind the scenery. And that happened a few times through the show, and it really reminded me of just having wings in a theatre.
Yeah,
I know having stage right, stage left. It was just. You know, practical for the show, I guess. You know, because and again, that gave it that theatrical feel to it. When it happened a few times when the archaeologist would just walk behind the rock, and that was him gone. You know, and us and we as the audience just have to accept he's not behind the rock. Like, he is gone. Like, if you run behind that rock, you're not going to find him. If you walk around this wall, he's not going to be there. He's ran off. You know, whatever it could be. I like that about the show. It's that quirkiness about Star Trek, the original Star Treks, which I really, really enjoy, or have been enjoying since I've been watching them.
In some ways, I would say it differs from being, because one thing I wouldn't expect from a theatrical performance is perhaps some of the nuance and subtlety of just the writing in this, which felt really natural, like almost just like a conversation people are having. There's a couple examples I wrote down where I was surprised by just some of the lines that were delivered that I really liked.
Go for it.
One of them was...
One might think that you had more important duties than harassing people, Captain.
I have, Professor. Believe me, I have. Where is Mrs. Crater? I want to talk to her, too.
He isn't going, yeah, my more important duties are that someone's died and I need to find out what happened. Like, which he does say at one point, but then this time he's just like, oh, believe me, I do. Where is Nancy? And he just like, it just gets kind of skipped over, but just that little thrown in line I thought was really nice. And a similar one from Bones, when they're listening to Nancy explain the death of the first crew member, and he's now seeing her differently because she appeared at as an unbelievably young age to him initially, and she's now changed that because they realised they were going to get caught out. She's now appearing as a different age, and Bones is like kind of thrown by it.
The minute you look at me like you don't believe me.
No. It's not that at all. It's something entirely different.
And then they just carry on with the conversation. And yeah, again, no reference to why he's looking at her strangely. And it doesn't become this point of conflict as to, him not believing this person he has a relationship with, which feels like it's where it's about to go.
Well, it's an internal dialogue, isn't it? It's an internal dialogue which you can see played out on his facial features, in his eyes, everything like that, which I really liked.
That was
actually.
great.
Like you bringing up that bit, it's really good. It's really good acting because you can he doesn't have to say anything. He doesn't have to tell the audience what's happening.
Yeah.
You can see it as the audience that he's making connections that something isn't quite right here. It's good acting.
I really liked that whole bit where they first hint that something's slightly off here, and just that little almost throwaway line that just they don't linger on it at all. Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah. I think that's what I enjoyed about this episode a lot more. To go back to the initial question of what do I think about the acting and is it bearable for me to watch in this show. For some reason, the portrayal of the characters was so much easier to watch because I think they were a lot more human.
Yeah, I get that.
In what was going on.
Except Spock, perhaps.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, yeah. But that's what's good about his character as well. He is, as far as I'm aware, so far, he's the only alien on the Enterprise crew.
I think he's the only one that's referenced. Yeah, everyone else appears to be human, at least. I don't know if they are.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, they could be other races. Completely. They could be completely alien to us. We just don't know yet because that's not been introduced into the show yet. Go on. What other pieces of dialogue did you have? Did you have a few?
They were the two that I wrote down, but just the fact that some of them are just really naturally delivered and feel like they're about to become some, dramatic point of conflict, but they really don't. They and all of a sudden it really feels like you're just listening to genuine people having a conversation.
Sure.
Just it's little bits of flavour. It's really nice.
Yeah. William Shatner though had some classic. Well, I mean, it was like his classic delivery techniques. We must go down to sea. I cracked up, but I think it's just because I know, like, it's how William Shatner is. You know what I mean?
Sure,
or like even now, like in the future, he's. That's one of his quirks, isn't it? That's one of his personality traits as an actor.
Yeah, that's him as a real person informing that character.
It was some fantastic bits of dialogue where I was just laughing, but I wasn't laughing at the dialogue that he was saying. I was laughing at the way that he was saying it. It's just the way he said it. It completely cracked me up.
But yeah, we've talked a lot about things that we thought were perhaps better done in this show than the previous, like the character relationships, perhaps some of the writing. I will mention briefly what I preferred about the first episode over this one, which we touched on earlier, about it doesn't get very technical, it doesn't explain the science of what's going on. I want to talk about what the abilities of the alien were in this episode, because it presents it almost just like it's a shapeshifter, but it's really not. It can appear as different people simultaneously to different people in a conversation. There's like a 5-way conversation happening in that first scene, and 3 of them are seeing a different person simultaneously.
Yeah, completely.
Which means that it's actually got powers almost like the aliens from the first episode in a way. Like it can make you see what the creature wants you to see, and not only that, but someone from your past.
Yeah, so it was almost like a psychic.
Yeah.
Mind trick, wasn't it? Like an illusion,
Yes.
It's in fact, I think at one point they say that it's like a chameleon, being able to adapt to its surroundings and being able to adapt to its scenarios. It seems to have the ability to be able to read the minds of the people that are around it.
It seems that way. At one point, it even just speaks Swahili because it's talking to Uhura.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's reading that information. So yeah, it definitely has this kind of mind reading ability.
So that's one of its tricks, right? That's one of its abilities. That's one of its and they even reference and they even say like just like how humans don't use their muscles for hunting anymore, certain muscles for hunting anymore. It was saying like this is like one of its arbitrary traits from its evolution. You know, that it's able to do these things and it's able to, you know, mimic other creatures around it. We don't learn anything much more about the creature's history
or its limitations or the way it's doing what it's doing. Like in the first episode, they talk about the fact that through, or it's discovered through Pike's kind of trial and error that they can't mind read, you know, primitive emotions. And if you fill your mind with like hate or rage, they can't get through that. Or there's a time where they can't fill him with irresistible hunger. All they can do is make him experience pain. So they establish these limits of what the alien can do, and they talk more about how they're able to do it as well. And that all seems missing from this episode. And what's there feels somewhat kind of inconsistent as well. Like it also has the ability to like make you freeze up, and that kind of came out of nowhere. You know, I assumed it was just like pouncing on people when they weren't expecting it, but no, apparently it can make you like completely freeze and then suck all the salt out of your body. So yeah, lots of established abilities.
Yeah. I know, and no, I was just trying to think back to that moment. It's like we only really see that, don't we, in the final part?
Yeah, it feels really thrown in. I think they mentioned earlier than this that it maybe has the ability to do that. And when they mentioned it, I was thinking, that's a weird assumption to make. Like, how do you know it's not just like jumping on people, holding them down and sucking the salt out of them? And then, in the last in the last scene, basically, you see it do it to Kirk. Which I thought was very strange.
Yeah, and he like freezes, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He like stops before, like paralyzed almost. I wonder if that's a psychic trick, like a mind control trick to stop, you know, if we're kind of going to go down this sort of scientific route and analyze this creature. Maybe that's how it stops its prey from getting away. You know, it makes them freeze up, makes them stop completely. They don't seem to have any ability to get away from it once they're in that position. Although, how did Ahura get away?
Yeah,
there was a Sulu and the other officer came out the door and distracted them both.
Yeah,
and I think that broke that connection, which then allowed Ahura to get into the elevator.
I think it actually hadn't like done the freeze trick on Ahura yet. I assume it was maybe about to. But yeah, they do just keep introducing this new thing that the alien can do and never really explaining it. Like they introduced that the alien can shapeshift into something that it's seen. Like it sees the dead crew and turns into it. And that feels like that should be its ability. But then they establish it can do it from memory. And then at that point where it can just speak Swahili, I was like, why can this alien talk Swahili? And you can kind of give it the ad hoc justification of, well, if it mind reads Ahura, it could mind read the Swahili language from her brain as well, perhaps.
Maybe it's not even doing that though.
That's also
maybe
just a trick.
That's just the illusion.
I guess,
it's just the illusion. It's not even happening.
Yeah, could be.
It's just in their minds. That's what they think that they can hear and see and smell, etc. But that's actually not happening. It's just the illusion of the creature is just putting that in the mind so that it stops them, so that it can. Yeah. So that it can attack them.
And the weird thing about that to me is that makes it even more similar to the aliens from episode 1. So we're 2 episodes in, and we have aliens with almost the exact same abilities, which is weird. Why would you not go in a different direction? So yeah, if that is the justification for all of this, it's both kind of unexplained and immediately doubling up on the premise of episode 1. So yeah, kind of strange to me that they didn't justify that. And I preferred that in episode 1, that the technical stuff was explored a lot more.
Again, I think that's something due to the fact that the pilot episode initially wasn't accepted. It wasn't like something that they were going to carry on. You know, it was a few years later that they thought, okay, let's go with this Star Trek idea. This could work. Let's grab the pilot. Let's take a few things that worked in it. Let's take one, Spock was, like you said, the only character that carried on from that pilot episode. from a modern audience point of view, it can seem a bit repetitive, but I guess at the time they were kind of thinking, well, we've got some material here, we've got some ideas here, let's take some of the ideas from the pilot episode, insert them into this one, because they were good ideas, they worked, it was just...
focus on very different things.
Yeah, focused on different things, yeah. But again, like, overall, like, the alien was freaky, man. Like,
It was,
that
yeah.
alien was freaky.
It's like a creature from the Black Lagoon crossed with like a
It was.
lamprey eel or something.
Hyde said, my fiance, for the audience listeners who don't know who Hyde is, she was watching the show with me, and she said it was like the Yeti caught in a fishing net. That's what it looks like. And I kind of understand where she's going with that. I can sort of see. It was kind of the combination between an octopus, a psychic entity,
Sure.
and it was wearing a net as clothing. That was its form of clothing.
It reminds me of a creature that I saw in a film many, many years ago, and I don't even know what the film is now because I must have seen it at the age of 10 or earlier, and it's a film about they have like a time travel machine, and they go back to like...
You mean The Time Machine?
Is it just The Time Machine? Is that it? It's a very old film, and they go back and they find like this weird grey monster, and kind of there's something about that film that I'm reminded of, even though I barely remember the film.
The Time Machine, it's the Morlocks.
The Morlocks?
That's what they are. The Morlocks. That is the grey creature that you're thinking of.
Right. It might not even be similar. I don't know. I don't even remember what a Morlock looks like.
Strangely enough, the spinning off here again onto a little tangent here. The Morlocks appears in the 1960s film of The Time Machine, so they very well could have got the inspiration from that film.
I suppose that is possible.
For this creature, they might have had just something like left over. Left over on the set. Let's just use the same costume. We'll just throw a net over it. We'll give it a little bit of a sprucing up. Give it a little bit of extra color here, a little color there, and we'll give it some octopus tentacle arms.
It needs to suck the salt out in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, where did they get those rings from on the body? At first, because on the first time when we see the first dead officer, he's got these little circles around all over his face and stuff, hasn't he? You know, it looks pretty nasty, doesn't it? Doesn't look very nice at all, but it was an interesting combination of things to put onto an alien creature. Octopus arms, weird hairy body, Yeti style, psychic abilities. How did these creatures die out? How did they die out? They were like the perfect specimens of existence.
Well, I was about to say it doesn't seem very well suited to living on a desert planet. But
not at all.
Yeah,
not at all. Not at all. Maybe it was the last of its kind, wasn't it?
Yeah.
As they refer to, like the they say about the buffalo, don't they? Or they're referring to the fact that it was the last of its kind. Just how the buffalo died out, this is going to die. This creature will die out too.
But there's one big difference between the buffalo and this creature, Mike.
Your creature is killing my people.
Buffalo don't suck salt out of people. Overall, though, you know what? When I finished the episode, I was so ready to start the next one.
It's the first thing I'm going to do when we get off this call. I want to go and watch episode 3.
Yeah. Because I know, like, in our modern times, TV shows these days are designed to leave you wanting, are designed to leave you on a cliffhanger all the time. It seems like that is the premise for every single show now, to make you want to watch the next episode, to make you want to watch more. It's the way it is. It's a clever technique, and it does work, because that's where the binge series sort of mentality
for sure
is now. And I am one of these people who will sit and watch an episode and watch another episode, and that's why probably I know earlier before we started the show we were talking, just asking each other how we've been and things like that, and we've been saying we've been struggling with sleeping patterns and stuff. I do blame binge episode stuff for that, because I'll finish an episode and I'll be like, oh, go on, stick another one, and it's only another 20 minutes, it's only another hour, go on, I watch another one 5 o'clock in the morning later, I'm still there, going, oh man, I could really watch one more. Oh, I'm craving that next bit of episode, next bit of information. Give me more. But for this sort of production, that wouldn't have been the case. It would have been a week by week thing, wouldn't it? Like we were saying in the last recording.
And these episodes do feel very self-contained, which is nice. Like neither of these have ended on some cliffhanger. It has been a conflict which is brought up unresolved in one episode, and that's nice.
Yeah, and it does all come round about, and then they go off and they go on to more adventures, don't they? You know, that's how it ends. Yeah, looking forward to the next episode.
Me too. I've got to say, I'm glad I have started watching from the Star Treks from the beginning. I think that was a good decision, and I am looking forward to moving on to the next episodes.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said I mentioned that we'd started this show, and then he said, "Oh my God, you are gonna be dedicating the rest of your life to this enterprise that you've actually gone for."
Was that a pun, Mike? Was that a Star Trek pun?
Yeah, did you see that? Did you see how I inserted it in? Yeah, thank you.
That's why you come here, folks. It's for this. It's for this wit. Star Trek puns.
It's just for the wit. It's for the puns. You know, that's why I'm here. That's what I'm providing for you. A little bit of a sporadic mind and a few Enterprise puns there for you.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining me, Mike. I had a lot of fun watching this episode and talking about it, as I did last time. And yeah, can't wait to move on to the next one.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Yeah, it's been great. Looking forward to the next episode and looking forward to the next recording.
Yeah, and thank you all for listening. Bye, folks.